Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining and welcome to our webinar, Demystifying the Creative Review Process. I'm Jillian and I'll be moderating this session. In this webinar, you'll hear from Tiger Hamilton, who is a leading expert in optimizing workflows for creative teams. She will share practical steps to ignite your team's creativity and improve your internal creative processes. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items. 1, please enter any questions in the Q&A panel, which can be found at the bottom center of your screen. We will be watching your questions and comments and answer those at the end of today's presentation. 2, this session is also being recorded and will be available on demand at a later date. So today I'll be introducing our speaker. We will be recognizing common struggles, and then we will dive into a Smartsheet demo, talking about content collaboration, and we'll also be diving into how Smartsheet can help. And with that being said, I'll pass it over to our speaker, Tiger.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Tiger Hamilton, and I'm so excited to talk to you about how we can accelerate creative project management using Smartsheet. This is a critical workflow for a creative operations use case and something I'm very passionate about and love talking about as being a former creative manager. First, let's talk about recognizing common struggles. The first time I saw this slide, it really took me back to the time when I started as a creative manager, and really the reason I looked for a solution and ended up discovering Smartsheet. This is not fun to look at, let alone live through. And most creatives we talk to describe this as the way in which they execute their creative operations. There are over 8,000 software solutions available to tackle very specific functions of creative or of marketing work, which we call point solutions. And the average team has more than 8 of them, ranging from email service providers to social listening and publishing tools and everything in between. On top of that, marketers and creatives are spending an obscene amount of time in emails or chat rather than getting their top work done. You probably relate. I know I could. A recent survey from Adobe found that 57% of those emails just sent through the workday are for checking in on the status of something or providing the status of something. The technical term for this is unstructured work. And this introduces challenges that are so easy to avoid. Today, we're going to cover how Smartsheet can help you reduce creative bottlenecks, streamline content collaboration, and accelerate your team's content production within your creative operations. Hopefully, by the end of this webinar, you'll walk away with easy ways to avoid all of these challenges. Here at Smartsheet, we can help with so many different aspects of the creative or marketing lifecycle. You'll see a lot of talk about how we help plan the work, do the work, and scale the work. With that in mind, we're going to talk about how you can do the work faster with more streamlined creative reviews and how you can scale those final creative assets with our state-of-the-art digital asset management tool. We'll show you how to reduce creative bottlenecks and keep your team focused on creating exceptional content. We'll cover how centralized stakeholder feedback, version control, reviews, and approvals can optimize and accelerate your process. And you will learn how to utilize a centralized hub for company assets to save time and ensure compliance. All right, let's dig into this demo. I'm going to turn off my camera and we're going to move those out of the way so you can see everything. Before we get into async reviews, let's just take a step back. The first thing I like to do as a creative operations manager is to start with a dashboard. An effective dashboard should surface information that will help you organize and know the work. This dashboard is going to meet 3 of my everyday questions. What are we doing? What needs to be addressed right now? And what else can I do to keep the cogs moving without spending a lot of time trying to figure out what those are? It's going to give me quick access to the things I need every day with these icons at top. These charts show me what's going on right now. I want anything that needs to be addressed to stand out. New request and received show me that a new item has come in that I need to review and assign. Flagged is also red because that indicates any hot jobs or priority items that I want to keep an eye on until they're completed. These metrics are live and they update automatically based on the work that you're already doing. Not only that, but I can actually click on any of these to drill down and to see and manage the work. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the dashboard to show one of my favorite things to include, which is embedded reports. Reports allow me to really hone in on specific aspects of my day-to-day tasks. So I'll create a report for each kind of task that I need to do. I have a lot of valuable and critical, but sometimes overwhelming data in my sheets. And when I'm working quickly, I really don't want to do a bunch of scrolling to find and piece together all the data I need. With a report, I can pull out specific columns that are relevant to that task at hand and filter to only show assets that pertain to the moment that I want it to pull the data. And once those are addressed, it will fall off this report. Having these embedded in the dashboard not only provide quick access, but if the report is blank, that means that I'm all caught up in that area and I don't need to do anything. This really helps reduce the time spent looking for what needs to be done. Let's take a look at the creative work we are managing. The board view is one of my favorite ways to visualize and do the work when I'm working within the sheets. In this view, the lanes inform me which phase the asset is in, so it gives me an idea of what that next step is and what I need to do. I see that I have a new request that's come in, and it needs to be assigned to one of our designers. But before I do that, I actually want to review this to make sure that all the information is there so that my designer has everything they need before they get started on the work. If anything is missing, I can send an update request to the requester to complete any missing details. Now it's time to assign the task to the appropriate person. I can do that here, or I can change my view to assign to really get an idea of what my team is working on right now. Now, I know that some of these assets have actually been completed, so I want to use a filter that I've created that only shows things that are in progress. So it's going to get rid of anything completed. I can see Olivia has recently completed a task, and it looks like she has some bandwidth. So I'm going to assign this task to her by moving the card to her lane. We can see in a moment this will update to show that it's assigned to her. There it is. And since I have automation workflow set up, by assigning the task to her, it's also going to update the status as well as the routing and revision status, which are two different statuses I have in the sheet. The routing and revision status more for my team, whereas the status is more for the higher level view of what's going on. These are 3 manual tasks that have been updated by one move. After I assign this to her, I'm going to give an SLA so she knows how much time to work on this, but a formula is going to give a due date. Since board view is one of our brand new views and we're still rolling out updates we know and love in Smartsheet, it doesn't support proofing yet, but we can easily switch to card view to talk about how proofs are going to help us optimize and accelerate our creative process. I'm going to change my view. In card view, I can see any assets that already have a proof attached to it with this icon here. I can click and open any proof from there, or I can use the proof panel on the right to view the attached proof or see all of those proofs on the right panel. Now, normally icons will appear here, and today the demo gremlins are attacking, so we're just seeing generic icons. But usually this is the view that I like, especially when I'm looking for something in particular, because like most creatives, I associate more with that image rather than kind of this title name, which is also why I have images on the card, just so we associate easier to these. Smartsheet supports multiple file types for proofing, including image files, documents, slides, multi-page PDF, and videos. You can also add a hyperlink so that comments and approvals can be captured in one place. A new proof can be added to any card by drag and drop or upload. Or your creative team can actually use the free Adobe plugin to add new proofs from InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, or even XD. This plugin acts like Smartsheet within Adobe and takes the native file and transforms it to a PNG for review. So the designer does not have to take that additional step to convert the raw file into something that is legible to everybody else who is not in Adobe. Let's open an existing proof to learn more. The proofing panel is going to contain all versions. So you can easily navigate to earlier versions and see who has requested changes and what kind. Several annotation types allow users to call out specific areas and requests. Those annotations will appear on the right, but also when you hover over them within the proof. If you have a multi-page PDF or multiple images, when you click on the comment, it will actually take you to that page or to that image, so you do not have to hunt down where this comment was left. You will notice that when we add a new version, the previous versions are all locked. That means no one can come in here and inadvertently add comments to an earlier version. So let's go to the latest version. Clicking on invite allows you to type an email address. This could be within your org or with external partners, or you can allow Smartsheet to review a list of contact columns that are already existing in your sheet. This is particularly helpful if you've asked the requester to identify anyone else who needs to review the proof, and this also reduces the risk of forgetting somebody in that reviewing process. So in this case, I know I want to invite the requested by person as well as reviewers. Now, maybe for this particular case, you want to see who those viewers are to make sure everyone is there, or maybe you know that someone is on vacation and they're not going to be needed in this round, so we're going to remove that person and maybe add somebody else. Clicking send is going to send a notification to their emails within Smartsheet and also with Slack or Team if you have that set up. Choosing require changes or approved will keep the asset moving because in the background, Smartsheet is actually keeping track of several things. Let's switch to a report to see those columns. We call these proof info columns, and these purple columns are the ones that are automatically being updated based on what you're doing within the proof. So it's going to tell us how many versions there are, what the proof status is, when it was created, and when it was completed. So I like to use the versions to help me get ahead of any assets that might be spiraling into way too many reviews. So I might create a report that says anything over 3 versions to show up. And that way I can have any conversations early on to determine what is happening. The date created and date completed really gives us a good idea of how long it takes for that proofing process to help support when we're requesting a specific SLA in order to complete these tasks. So when you're telling your team or telling your cross-functional partners that you need a certain amount of time in order to ensure that these assets are created properly and reviewed properly, we have data to support how long that takes. And then there are these 3 contact columns. The auto magic happening here means that the pending approval column is automatic. And as soon as you invite people to approve, their names are going to populate here. Once they've chosen approves or requires changes, Smartsheet is going to move their name to that appropriate column. You can build automation utilizing these columns so that Smartsheet can be the bad guy for you instead of babysitting proofs and reaching out to reviewers when you're waiting for an update. This is another area where I actually like to utilize reports. I can create one report and use that pending approval column and set it to current user. So no matter who is logged in and accesses this report, they're going to see any proofs that have been assigned to them. So this is my view, but if anybody else were to look at this report, it would probably look different for them. Once I've reviewed the proof and made a selection, it will fall off the reports. When this is empty, that means I have nothing to do and I'm all caught up. Now that we've completed the work within our creative work management or CWM system Smartsheet, the final step is to move it to our best in class digital asset management or DAM platform brand folder. This seamless integration allows me to carry related metadata that we've already captured in our Smartsheet with the asset into the DAM. Once the reviews are complete, you can lock the proof so no one can come back and make a request for another change. We're going to pretend like these guys have all approved. And finally, we can push that final approved asset to Brandfolder. This is where it allows us to select where the asset will live. Maybe it's a space for cross-functional team members, or maybe for creative and marketing team size only. You can decide which stakeholders are going to have access. Then I can select what custom fields and tags I want to live with the asset and Brandfolder. Again, these are columns within Smartsheet. So whatever data I'm capturing there, I can carry with that asset into Brandfolder. Some of my favorite ones are the description, the person assigned to do the creative. So especially if you're working with any creative vendors, you can do a search and see all of their work together. Who has approved the asset? So if the web team is about to upload an image, they can see that the brand manager has in fact approved it. Or if they don't see the brand manager there, they can reach out and say, this doesn't look like it's on brand. We need your review for this. And maybe the campaign that it's associated with, if you have that data there. All of these tags and custom fields become searchable in our powerful DAM system. With this push, I can connect the asset from Smartsheet as well as Smartsheet from Brandfolder so that your content always links back to the context you're working in. As you can see here, this link is going to take me back to the Smartsheet. Now, if you do not have access to the sheet, you're going to get a notification saying that you don't have access. Otherwise, you'll be able to see asset in context with the other within Smartsheet. Now, let's spend a moment in Brandfolder. Brandfolder can support over 300 file types, and it automatically creates thumbnails for nearly all of those file types. I can create sections at the top based on requests that I typically get for that people are looking for certain items, such as headers and backgrounds. Users have the ability to download an asset, and they can also choose to crop it without affecting the underlying image. Now, this is obviously sized, but let's take a look at those export options. So you can determine what type of crops are going to be here. But one thing that I love is that Brandfolder includes social media crops. So you don't have to remember what these types are and sizes. Brandfolder is going to do that for you. Versions are also saved for each asset. So if you make any changes and upload this back, you will be able to keep track of all of those versions. You can also easily revert to earlier versions. Furthermore, you can contain like objects together, such as an image and the photo release form. If you need to share assets with an external partner, or maybe a particular group, we can easily do that by selecting the assets that are needed and choosing share. It's going to create a unique link. I can change the name, and I have options such as expiring the link and requiring email so that I am notified, or I can visually see a log of who's accessed those files and who's downloaded them if I've allowed them to do that. I can also add new files to this or take any away from the share link while it's live. Furthermore, we can schedule availability. So I can decide when assets are going to be available, as well as set an expiration date when I want them to be no longer searchable to the rest of my org. Let's recap. We saw how the proofing panel can eliminate chaos by clearly managing versions, requesting updates and approvals, locking reviews, and sending to Brandfolder when complete. We saw the magic that is happening in the background as you, your team, and collaborators work intuitively with proofs. Then we saw how you can easily store and distribute those assets, getting rid of asset sprawl and hopefully saving your creative sanity. I hope you enjoyed this webinar and learned something new. If you're interested in learning how your current marketing process measures up to other creative and marketing teams, we have an excellent tool that will evaluate how your marketing creative operations stack up against the rest, as well as provide recommendations to improve how you approach the work, content, and people needed to scale your business. Not every process needs to be completely overhauled. At Smartsheet, we don't like to fix something that isn't broken. Smartsheet does not try to recreate the wheel. If you have a process that is working, you can take that process, standardize it, repeat it, and reduce manual tasks, making your work more efficient and onboarding quicker. Or maybe you're interested in learning what best looks like. We would love to connect with you and discuss how Smartsheet and Brandfolder can level up your work. If you would like to learn more, please indicate your interest with the posted poll. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully we got to your questions in the chats, but if anything comes up, please feel free to reply to the email that you'll receive after this webinar with a link to the recording. Someone will reach out to you and answer your questions. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.